Hello and welcome to another edition of Manx Radio Newscast with me, Lewis Foster. For the first time since 2017, a humpback whale has been photographed swimming in Manx waters. The images were captured by Ben and Katie Hellowell around 50 metres offshore between Peel and Niarbyl. Manx Whale and Dolphin Watch say the pair first saw the animal leap vertically out of the water facing towards them and could see the entire body, head and flippers with only its tail remaining underwater. They turned off their boat engines and further spotted the whale surface a few times as it headed south along the coast. Now, humpback sightings in Manx waters are typically only reported every few years, with sightings prior to 2017 in 2013 and 2010. Jen Adams, Education and Outreach Manager for Manx Whale and Dolphin Watch, told me just how rare an encounter this was.
Oh, absolutely amazing. So they got in touch yesterday and said, we've seen this whale the evening before, not quite sure what it was, and that they'd done a bit of research and thought it might look a bit like a humpback whale, but they knew that they were very rare here. As soon as I saw the images and opened them up, unmistakably the knobbly fin of a humpback whale.
So that was the identifier, was it? Is it the dorsal fin, am I right in saying?
Yes, so really small sort of bumpy dorsal fin, and then they have this kind of like bumpy ridge that goes down to the tail fluke as well, and you could see both of those things on the photograph.
And I'll ask them the same thing, but it must have been quite an impressive sight. How big are humpback whales? What are we looking out for if we were to look out off the coast of the Isle of Man and think that may be a humpback?
So, they're a big whale. They can grow to about 16 or 17 metres. So, the most common whale that you're likely to see here is the minke whale, and they're much smaller, at about 8 metres in length. And humpback whales are really acrobatic for a baleen whale. They sometimes act a bit more like dolphins, which sounds a bit bizarre, but they do breach, so leaping with their full body out of the water. Sometimes they will almost swim on their sides and stick their flipper out of the water as well. So really quite unusual animals. You will also often see the tail fluke as they dive, a behaviour known as fluking.
And is that where we see the tail flicking up in the air and cascading all the water down?
Yes, it is, absolutely. You've probably seen it on television or in photographs, so that's what fluking is.
And we know the sightings before this, we're talking 2017. I seem to remember a couple of months ago as well, perhaps a considered what might have been a sighting off the Calf of Man, but we weren't sure at the time. But photographs of this quality, very rare.
Absolutely. So back off the Calf of Man, it was in May. So I was there. There was a couple of us from Manx Whale and Dolphin Watch doing a land-based survey, just looking west of the calf. The visibility was really good, and we'd seen a few minke whales on the same survey. And I'd seen this huge, great big splash about 4 or 5 miles out, or even further. Very sort of long splash, and I just thought in my head it looked so much like the splash that a big humpback whale would make. But we weren't able to confirm it at the time. But perhaps now that we know that there is definitely one here, it could show that was a humpback back then, but we'd never know.
And every few years, why are they so rare in Manx waters? What is the typical environment for a humpback?
So we just don't really see them in this part of the Irish Sea very often. The closest place that you're likely to see them is off the west coast of Ireland, where it is a lot deeper. But I do know that in recent years, they have been seeing the odd humpback whale off Pembrokeshire, of Wales, and sometimes off the Hebrides as well. So they will pass through Manx waters from time to time, but very occasionally.
And that's what we're seeing, is it? They're passing through. They wouldn't be likely to stop and feed perhaps around here.
Yeah, they might stop and feed, if there's enough for them to feed on. So in Manx waters or the Irish Sea, they're most likely to be feeding on small shoaling fish like herring or mackerel, or it might just be that he was passing through just to see what was about.
And more broadly, talking about whales and dolphins and everything else, how abundant have they been this year? What are records showing? Because, like we say, back in May, there seemed to be quite a few sightings at once, and this sighting as well. Is it adding hopes that the health of the Irish Sea is good for whales?
Yeah, we've actually been having a really busy start to the season. So we did have lots of minke whales back in May that were seen for about 2 or 3 weeks continuously. And we've had big pods of the short-beaked common dolphins. Now, unlike their name, short-beaked common dolphins aren't particularly common in the Irish Sea, or at least they weren't, up until 3 years ago. The last 3 seasons we've seen big pods of them, so we're talking 200 or 300 dolphins altogether. So we've seen these guys a couple of weeks ago just 4 or 5 miles off of Peel. So we know that certain species are making a big comeback to the Irish Sea, and whales and dolphins being at the top of their food chain, they are a really important indicator species. So they indicate as to the overall health of the environment. You know, if a population of whales and dolphins is doing well, it means the marine environment must be strong and must be good for them. On the other hand, if they were declining, we know that something might be going on down there.
For anyone who's walking along the coast of the Isle of Man and looking out and thinking, oh, what should I be looking for if I want to keep an eye out for a humpback, perhaps, although it might be rare, is there anything to kind of keep an eye on? Any signs? I know we kind of often look for gannets as well if it's porpoises, and the smells as well. I've heard. Is it true you can sometimes smell whales?
Yes, you can actually. The minke whale does have a nickname, which is Stinky Minky. They do absolutely pong, and you can sometimes smell them before you see them. And it's much the same with the humpback whale as well. It's purely because they eat so many fish every day, they just smell a fish when they come up to exhale before they inhale again. But you're quite right, gannets are a really good indicator, not just for porpoises, but for any whale or dolphin or even basking sharks. So the gannets have really good eyesight. They want to eat fish as well. So if they see any dolphin or whale, they assume that they're feeding and pushing fish to the surface. So the gannets will dive right in where the dolphin is. So we can watch a load of diving gannets from the coast and, you know, have a good look with binoculars. You might see a dorsal fin or 2 popping up. Another good thing to look out for is just general disturbance in the water. It is tricky to see these animals when it's very windy. It's not because they're not there, it's because you just can't see them very well. So your best chance is to see them, look out on a nice flat calm day, if possible, and you might see an area of white water, you know, something churning the surface of the water up, or anything that just looks a little bit strange. Then have a good look through your binoculars.
And how important is it, residents reporting sightings like this for Manx whale and dolphin watch, your research, your records?
Oh, it's so important. So our public sightings network has now been going since 2005 on our website. So through this, we can get an idea of exactly how many of each species are in Manx waters at any one time and how often they use different locations of Manx waters through the year. So we can see about their seasonality and number of calves and juveniles per year. So if you see any whale, dolphin, porpoise or basking shark in Manx waters, then please do let Manx Whale and Dolphin Watch know. You can fill out a report form directly on our website, which is just www.mwdw.net. You can get in touch through Facebook or email or telephone or at the Manx Whale and Dolphin Watch Visitor Centre in Peel. It's happy spotting. I hope you guys get to see something. You know, the Isle of Man is an incredible place to see these animals, and you don't have to be on a boat either. You never know what you might see just from the coast.
Thank you to Jen Adams, Education and Outreach Manager for Manx Whale and Dolphin Watch there. Well, that's all for this episode of Newscast. I've been Lewis Foster. Thank you for listening.
Thank you for making it to the end of the Little Manx Radio newscast. You are obviously someone with exquisite taste. May I politely suggest you might want to subscribe to this and a wide range of Manx Radio podcasts at your favourite podcast provider so our best bits will magically appear on your smartphone. Thank you.